Hello, BookTube. Well, the arthritic Spidey-Sense that I had earlier today proved to be completely correct. I did get more mail. A couple of boxes and a package, all from publishers it looks like. So I thought we'd go through that now. I think this makes 5 videos today, but I've done that before. If we stop at 5, we should be fine. I'm curious to know what these things are. I didn't want to let them wait. So let's see what this first one is. In a bright purple envelope. Oh, it's 2 books. Okay. The first one is by Lemony Snicket, a name that will be known to some of you. There's a sheet from the publisher, but the books also have sheets. This one is called Poison for Breakfast, and it comes out in August, so it's another long way off release date. Poison for Breakfast. Many of his devoted readers, so many of whom have grown into adulthood while reading him, entirely true, will be delighted by his upcoming release, Poison for Breakfast, which will come out at the very end of August, so right on the doorstep of September is when this thing will appear. This brief standalone novel, written for all ages, is the true story of a single day in the life of Lemony Snicket, one that begins with a puzzling note under his door: "You had poison for breakfast." Mr. Snicket spends the rest of the book following a winding trail of clues to solve the mystery of his own demise. The plot is tidy and compact, with a little twist at the end, but the digressions and asides on subjects as wide-ranging as the proper way of swimming in open water, among other things, are the real meat of the book. The narrator's voice will be familiar to fans of a series of unfortunate events. Here is the same wry, clever, and somewhat jaundiced narrator of the best-selling series, but there are no children in this book. And while the prose is appropriate for young readers, this story is set firmly in the puzzling world of adults. Okay, very good. So a lot of you have actually echoed the sentiments of that pub sheet to me over the years, that you wish that this author really did more openly gear some of his books for an older age bracket. Here you go. Poison for Breakfast comes out in August and is exactly that. And what's this next one? This next one is from Thomas and Mercer, the mystery and thriller arm of Amazon Publishing, that has, I know we're not particularly supposed to like Amazon here on BookTube, but nevertheless, Thomas and Mercer has never let me down. Speaking just as a reader and as a reviewer, Thomas and Mercer has virtually never let me down for doing what they do. So, you know, there's that on the other side. So what do we got here? This comes out on September 1st. So these two are a long way away from me. This is Matthew Fitzsimmons, a book called Constance, where we have a Mobius strip inside a fingerprint on the cover. What if detective and victim were the same person? Hence the cover design. This unusual premise is the foundation of Wall Street Journal best-selling author Matthew Fitzsimmons' explosive new tech thriller. Fitzsimmons, who earned widespread rave reviews for his Gibson Vaughn 5-book series, consistently delivers riveting plot lines featuring nuanced characters who face extraordinary circumstances. I could swear I've read a Gibson Vaughn story. I could swear I've read at least one. This new standalone novel, okay, so this and Poison for Breakfast are both standalone novels from authors who have long series. This new standalone novel, a cool hybrid of classical mystery fused with speculative fiction, presents the eponymous main character, Constance. She's a tough and resilient survivor whom Fitzsimmons imbues with emotional vulnerability. In the near future, technology allows the very wealthy to cheat death by buying their own clones and regularly uploading their consciousnesses. Con is broke, but she was gifted a clone by her late aunt, who was instrumental in the program's development. After a routine monthly upload stored for that inevitable transition, something goes wrong. When Con wakes up in the clinic, it's 18 months later. Her recent memories are missing. Her original, she's told, is dead. If that's true, what does that make her? Faced with the horrifying realization, Con finds herself investigating her own murder, with no resources, no recollection to use as guidance, and no trustworthy allies. Doggedly, she retraces the steps of her original, determined to find out why she died and keep it from happening again. Well, that sounds fantastic. That sounds fantastic. So the murderer, the victim, and the detective are indeed the same person. That's great. Okay, so that's our author graduated from Swarthmore College, where he earned a BA in psychology, but lived largely in and for the theater. Born in Illinois and raised in London, he now lives in Washington, D.C. where he taught English literature and theater at a private high school for more than a decade. And although he has a publishing deal with Thomas and Mercer, he can't make himself smile. It would kill you to smile. That's what me Saint Ma would have said. But that sounds fantastic. Actually, both of these things do. They're both standalone novels from authors with series. They're both coming out much later in the year, at the end of summer, instead of where we are now at the very beginning of summer. So that's a little melancholy right there. But that's a great way to start. It's two made-up stories, but still, they both sound promising. So that's a great way to start. Now we'll deal with the boxes. There's one smaller box and one bigger box, but the bigger box is light as a feather. So it may be that the smaller box has a finished copy and the bigger box has, mass market paperback or something like that. We shall see. What have we got here? Oh my. Oh my. Okay, this is from the great folks at Princeton University Press, who really did not let me down in the darkest days of the pandemic when I wasn't getting any mail at all. And this one is one Steve very much wants to read. Very, very much wants to read. Oh my. So this was sent from the warehouse. I have to figure out when this comes out. It's a finished copy though, so it's either out now or it will be out soon. This is by Julian Baggini, and it is The Great Guide. What David Hume can teach us about being human and living well. I am a big fan of David Hume, so let's see what we have here. David Hume is perhaps best known for his ideas about cause and effect and his criticism of religion, but he is rarely thought of as a philosopher. I don't think of him that way, and with practical wisdom to offer. Yet Hume's philosophy is grounded in an honest assessment of nature, human nature in particular. It certainly doesn't invent quiddities where there are none. The Great Guide is an engaging and eye-opening account of how Hume's thought should serve as the basis for a complete approach to life. Oh, that's a little dicey, Julian. In this enthralling book, the author masterfully interweaves biography with intellectual history and philosophy to give us a complete vision of Hume's guide to life. He follows Hume in his life's journey, literally walking in the great philosopher's footsteps, as the author takes readers to the places that inspired Hume the most, from his family estate near the Scottish border to Paris, where as an older man he was warmly embraced by French philosophy. Among other things. He was warmly embraced just in general in Paris. Let's not get into that. Baggini shows how Hume put his philosophy into practice in a life that blended reason and passion, study and leisure, and relaxation and enjoyment. Okay, well, I'm on board, definitely. Any popular release book, David Hume. Who is Julian Baggini? He is an independent scholar, philosopher, and writer. He was the founding editor of the Philosopher's Magazine and is the author of many books. Okay, great. Fantastic. So a David Hume book that is a finished copy, so it's probably right on the horizon. It's probably a May release. And then we have the box, and it is very light. I can lift it easily. So let's see what we have here. Sometimes it's just more convenient for whoever's at the warehouse to pack a little book in a big box. Can't really gainsay that. What have we got here? Oh, great. Okay, this is not a little book. This is a big book. Fantastic. Okay, this I believe was an April release. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's right around the corner. Boy, the finished copy is lovely. I wish I could show you all the raised surfaces here. This is an author you will know, Edward Rutherford, who did a series of gigantic historical novels about one thing or another. A very Michener-esque series of historical novels. And this is his latest one. This is China. Absolutely lovely thing that I wish I could show you. All of these designs are raised, and even on the spine, they're raised. This doesn't have a pub sheet. It probably came straight from the warehouse, but I've been looking forward to this, to getting the finished copy of it. Let's see here. Edward Rutherford has enthralled millions of people with his grand, sweeping historical sagas that tell the history of an iconic place over multiple generations. Now, in this latest book, he takes readers into the rich and fascinating milieu of the Middle Kingdom, dramatizing the epoch when the colonial greed of Western powers shattered the stability of the 2,000-year-old empire, and the Chinese learned to fight back in ways that echo down to this day. The story opens in 1839, so this will, obviously you can see from the size, this is a 500-page book instead of a 1,000-page book, so it's not Edward Rutherford doing China, like the title might suggest, where he's covering 3,000 years. Instead, he starts in 1839, at the dawn of the First Opium War. An English merchant arrives in the restricted port of Canton, seeking to make his fortune trading opium. But the tide of addiction is dissipating the Chinese population. A young scholar accompanies his Mandarin master on a mission from the emperor to shut down the trade. Thus begins an epic tale chronicling China's conflict to regain its ancient land and culture from the domination of Western powers. From the Opium Wars through the Taiping Rebellion and the British burning of the Summer Palace, the Boxer Rebellion, and the long rule of the Dragon Empress, culminating in the Revolution of 1911, when modern China began to form. We meet a young village wife struggling with rigid traditions of her people, Manchu empresses and warriors, the powerful eunuchs of the Forbidden City, rapacious English soldiers and earnest missionaries, savvy Chinese pirates and sage philosophers. Fantastic. This sounds great. Okay, so it goes from 1839 to 1911. Am I right in thinking, those of you who know Edward Rutherford much better than I do, am I right in thinking that's the narrowest time frame of any of his novels? That's not even a century. That is fascinating to me if that's true. And I wonder, I read a chunk of this, but I haven't sat down and really lived and breathed it, as I will now that I have the finished copy. But I'm always wondering with an author like this, who I know a little bit, I know him fairly well, I don't think I've missed a major book of his. I always wonder, when you change your operating method like that, when you're dealing suddenly with a much narrower time scale, which I would hope would mean that you realize you have to build more complex characters, because you're going to be living with them for a lot longer. I wonder if that will change the feel of the book. I wonder if this will either be my least favorite Edward Rutherford or maybe my most favorite. Who knows? I'll give it a try. In fact, I'll read this today. I have a feeling this is already out. Great. Okay, that was our second mail haul. Not a bad mail haul at all. We have China by Edward Rutherford. We have The Great Guide, a book about what David Hume can teach you. What do you want to learn from the Divine David? We have Constance, murder mystery / speculative fiction where a clone has to solve her own murder. That is so clever. We'll see if the book lives up to the promise of the premise. And finally, Poison for Breakfast by Lemony Snicket. A tiny little thing coming out at the end of summer that seems geared more for adults. So there won't be children in here for children to identify with. But strong readers who are children don't always need that. So there you go. That is the promised second mail haul of the day. That is, I believe, video number 5. There will be no other videos today, so I will talk to you all tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.